Welcome to the Skoll World Forum on Social Entrepreneurship, coming to you live from Oxford, England. And I'm really delighted to be welcoming three very special guests who have come together to create a very special deal. Because I think less than 1 month ago, even a couple of weeks ago, your three separate organisations came together to find a way and to agree a way to deliver microloans to thousands of farmers in Myanmar. And the three of your organisations that you represent are the Skoll Foundation, which celebrates and advances social entrepreneurship, and delighted to be working with you, to hear you here today, Liz Diebold, and your principal at the Skoll Foundation. The second organisation represented here is OPIC, which is a US government agency helping American businesses invest in emerging markets. And pleased to be welcoming you, Jim Polan, your Vice President and Head of SME Finance. And our third guest is part of Proximity Designs, which was a winner of the Skoll Award last year.
2012.
2012 Skoll Award for Social Entrepreneurship. And you provide farm technology, advise and also finance farmers and help small family farms be profitable. And your name is Debbie Aung Taylor.
Yes.
And you are co-founder of Proximity Designs. So a big welcome to all three of you. And we're also going to ask Liz, who's going to be our scribe today, to also help sort of visualize this deal, because this is a big deal. It's only a small piece of paper, but it's important that we can all kind of get our head round what it is, because we are talking about $8 million of OPIC loan. Is that correct?
That's correct.
$2 million of subordinated debt from the Skoll Foundation. And this means it's debt that's only paid off after other loans have been paid off. Is that right?
Correct. If something goes wrong with the portfolio, if there are loans that aren't performing, we're willing to take the first sort of losses to that. Although we have a lot of history with Proximity Finance to believe that that won't have to be the case.
Fantastic. And then we've got then $10 million, which are then available to you, to Proximity Design, to directly finance your business of helping Myanmar's smallest farmholders.
Correct. That 10 million actually will fund, provide capital to about 20,000 farmers right off the bat.
And so explain to me first how that capital is used.
Well, every season, farmers are run a farm business and they need capital like most businesses. Except there's a real, a scarcity of capital for farming because of the risks involved with pests and disease and weather. And so most traditional microfinance or banks will stay in peri-urban areas and tend not to loan to farmers because of the risks and the high cost of travel to remote areas.
And so how much does the typical farmer borrow?
Ideally, they would need about $600 a season, and to cover all their capital needs.
And what's that going to be used for? $600
for seed, fertilizer, and harvest labor. Pesticides if they need, but just for inputs throughout the season.
And what kind of crops do most Myanmar farmers grow?
The largest staple crop is rice, and then the second one is sesame, and then there's all these farmers who just...
Is that for oil or seeds?
For seeds.
Okay.
And then there's all these vegetable growers who just on 1 acre will grow all sorts of vegetables for regional markets and urban markets.
And even the 1 acre farmers, are they going to take sort of $600?
Oh yes, and they are usually traditionally, outside of the, they're outside of the formal system. And so they really don't have access and have to rely on informal sources. And they can be as high as 10% per month interest.
Wow, so that's what they would be paying if they wouldn't borrow from you.
Right.
And how much interest do you charge?
As a microfinance organization, 2.5% per month.
Per month?
Yes, which is a lot better deal than 10%.
Yeah. And what's inflation like in Myanmar?
It's about 6%.
I think one of the other critical things is that 10% interest rate that other lenders are charging. They're also offering lower dollar amounts. So the typical farmer with 1 acre of land is borrowing from 4 to 5 different lenders to make up for what you could offer at one time.
Piecemeal.
So you're saving them a lot of money in admin and hassle and bureaucracy.
Absolutely.
And now what's I think really exciting about this is this blended finance model, which I think, Liz, you've had a go at sort of drawing.
I've attempting.
This looks got good colours.
Okay, I'm getting there. So how many farmers are you reaching through proximity finance now?
Right now, 100,000 borrowers.
Okay,
farmers.
And you're looking to go
to 200,000 in the next 5 years.
So here's what I've attempted to draw. There's an impact curve. So if you think about the impact that proximity finance is having to have over time, and we're going to use the reach to farmers as a proxy for that. Right now, where we're starting with this deal, we're at 100,000. And you already had about $9 million of capital sort of raised and servicing with proximity finance. So Skoll's come in with an additional $2 million to add on top of that stack. OPIC an additional $8 million, and what that capital allows them to do is continue up this impact curve, because that's what it's all about. It's the impact. It's not about the financial returns. That's a secondary sort of motivating factor potentially, but impact comes first.
And when you're talking about impact, how are you measuring impact?
Well, I think our bottom line, Skoll takes the lead from our portfolio organizations, and so proximity really focuses on the return to farmer income. If they're not making more money at the end of the day, then all of this is just hassle and extra work for nothing. So I don't know what your latest figures are here.
Well, what proximity does is we provide technologies, irrigation products we've designed for farmers, and typically they can increase farm income by net $250. And then we also provide curated advisory services and soil health, fertilizer management, crop protection.
And do you only offer all this sort of package of help to farmers who take your loans?
No,
or is it available to everyone?
Available to everyone. And so that extra, the advisory services, if a farmer uses 2 or 3 of our curated techniques, a rice farmer, they will typically increase their incomes by $500 or more, which is huge.
Are you able to reach farmers throughout the country? Because we hear so much in the news about the Rohingya minorities and them being forced off the land and the deep divisions within your country.
Well, we don't operate in Rakhine State right now, but we are operating in major agricultural zones where there's a high density of farmers, and I guess 80% of the rural population would probably be where we're operating.
And does that include the minority areas apart from that one
some
state?
areas, Shan State and Karen State, so we're in those areas as well.
And Jim, tell me about, from OPIC's perspective, about your incentive for being part of this blended finance deal, and what allowed you to feel safe, and have you ever done something quite like this before?
Well, your presumption that we feel safe is perhaps overstated. It's not our job to feel safe. It's our job to create impact and to use our toolbox to help that. And OPIC is the U.S. government's development finance institution, and we're making financial products available in over 100 countries, and projects as low as $1 million to as high as $500 million.
Wow.
So there's one part of the shop that does roads and power stations and ports and all kinds of large projects. And then there's my shop that does the under $100 million projects that are high impact, socially oriented, microfinance, renewable energy, that sort of thing.
And there must be so many contenders who are looking for your dollars.
Yes.
What makes you decide that this deal is one worth investing in for you?
Like our friends at Skoll and others, we're like-minded investors in that we're looking for impact. And we have our own measuring system, which is pretty sophisticated.
So what kind of things are you looking for?
We're looking for livelihood improvements, and it gets down to the nitty-gritty in some cases. We will measure how many towels a family has, how many pots and pans they have, what kind of floor they have, what kind of roof they have, all the way up to jobs created, foreign exchange earned by the economy, taxes paid to the local municipality, training and the exchange of technology and management from the entrepreneur to the local population. So it's a matrix, and it's counted and it's put into an algorithm, and a number comes up. So the number is between 0 and 100. So the simple answer to your question is, I'm going to do an 80-point deal more than I'm going to do a 40-point deal. And this one is very interesting to us because proximity takes this holistic approach and focuses on the rural areas. We've done almost $2 billion worth of this kind of investing in microfinance.
In rural areas?
No.
In microfinance?
Right. Most microfinance institutions will say, we are starting in the urban areas, but we'll get there. Don't worry. And they don't in most cases. But they try, but they just don't have what it takes to get out there and be proximate, which is what these folks are all about, to the actual folks that need their assistance. And with all of the other services they provide, the irrigation, the advisory service, that helps to reduce the risk that you ask at the outset of your question.
You mean because all the advisory services are making the farmer more likely to succeed and therefore more able to pay back the money?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, you've got to be very careful when you're lending money to people who have hitherto not borrowed, and not to over indebt them, and to get them to understand that they have to improve their productivity. Otherwise, they won't be able to repay those loans. And that's extremely interesting to us. That the whole notion of access to finance for rural people is one of the key elements to what OPIC is trying to do in this business. And the other couple of things that it does, it meets our gender requirements in that I think a large percentage of your borrowers are women.
What percentage?
Farmers. Well, at least half.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that
There's a lot of
typical of the
migration.
farming community?
Well, farmers, tends to be a family enterprise, and so both the women and the men are very involved together.
So would they, would most people be in a couple borrowing together, or how does it work?
Yes, they either borrow together as a family, or if the man is away, migrated, to a part-time job in the city, then the woman will take care of the farm, and then
And
she
will
will
she also take on the
She
loan?
will take on the loan.
And
yes.
do you feel that, do most of the women have to consult with their husbands, or are they doing that independently?
They'll usually consult. Yeah. So it is a joint decision.
One of the first times I visited Proximity's work, we went to it was a joint meeting of folks who were getting the advisory services from Proximity Designs, as well as the folks who were borrowing from Proximity Finance. And so when we got there was a division. All of the women were on one side and all of the men were on
So who
another
was on
side.
who, so which
well,
side?
that's what I had to ask. I was like, Debbie, break this down for me. Why are they not sitting together? Is this a cultural thing? I'd never been to Myanmar before. I just was, trying to be respectful. And she was like, oh, no. The women are the finance customers. The men are the advisory customers because they're the ones working the field. So they want the advice firsthand, not secondhand. And the women are here to make their loan payments.
Right.
That's interesting. And does that reflect something about the culture?
Well, I think women tend to manage the finances of the household.
Yes. We find that in Africa also with our collective approach to microfinance, where the groups that get together to borrow this money collectively, the women in the groups, which are the ones who are more concerned about the actual repayment of the loan, where the men are more concerned about exactly how they're going to sow their fields and find the fertilizer, et cetera, and actually do the work in the field.
If the farmers don't pay back their loan, what happens? Because, for example, I remember reading about in India about the enormous pressure on farmers who have borrowed money, not able to pay back loans, and therefore committing suicide in vast numbers.
Well, Myanmar, we've had 60 years of isolation, and so this is a severely underserved population. They've been on their own for a long time, with very, you could call it a credit famine. And so, basically when there's affordable loans, they will pay back and do everything possible because they want the next loan. So that's
What's
a huge
your payback rate?
It's 99 point.
Wow.
It's less than 1% default rate.
And that's been consistent.
Consistently.
That's amazing, isn't it? And is that typical in terms of when you do microfinance loans?
Well, actually,
Especially
that's a
this
little
is
bit
farmers.
better.
That's better.
And we're all farmers.
Like 98 or 97 overall. But again, many of them don't have this holistic approach. So even though it's rural Myanmar, which is pretty far out there, their approach works from a financial perspective.
You talk about the holistic approach, and that's actually where the Skoll Foundation decided to come in with this kind of an investment. We were working with Proximity, first with the initial award, holistically, all of their service offerings, and then we followed on to provide additional support on the advisory services side. And one of the findings there was some of the advice, it implies a cost. So you can tell me what kind of fertilizer I should be using, but then I need the money at the right time of year to be able to purchase that fertilizer in order to really see the impacts and the income gains. And we were seeing limitations there. And so this holistic approach really does help to maximize the income opportunity for the farmers, and that's what's led us here.
And it's a way to deepen our impact in terms of increased incomes is, 1 + 1 equals 3.
Yeah.
So.
And do you then give the money at appropriate times, or use that money to help provide seeds that you are giving?
Well, right now it's been organically done, and so with some of our farmers who have doubled their incomes through using our techniques, our cropping techniques, all of a sudden they want loans only, because they know the techniques and now they need loans. So it goes either way. And sometimes it's people who have loans and now they want better techniques.
And are you providing the seeds and the fertilizer and the insecticide?
We don't provide the seeds and fertilizer.
Okay.
Those are available in the market.
But you asked, are they providing it at the right time? And that is a really critical point. This 99.7% repayment rate wouldn't be possible.
Right.
And that really what makes you quite unique, and that you're one of the only players in the rural areas sensitive to the agriculture cropping cycle.
Right.
And you're providing the money exactly when they need it, so that you don't have to provide the seeds and fertilizer. They can go to the marketplace for that.
So some of the loans from the state banks, they can be 2 months late. And so, farmers need, to have it
at that time. So, let's say in rice, when do you need to be planting your seeds?
Around June, July.
Okay.
And so if you're 2 months late, then they have to take out high cost loans informally, and then they get into this cycle. And in terms of a lot of the conventional microfinance, you have to repay biweekly. Part of the principal and interest, and they just don't have cash flow. They said, our cash flow, our cash shows up at harvest.
So is that when you get repayment?
So we design our loans.
And when is that? So we're planting in
6
June,
months. 6 months.
So it's in
usually 6 month loans or 11 month. We have 11 month and 6 month.
Because of the different life cycles of different plants, different products.
Right. And so there's no biweekly payments, and
do you have any animals, or is it all crops?
We do have some small livestock loans for goat raising and duck raising.
Okay, ducks and goats. That's super cool.
Yeah.
And just briefly from all three, where next? If this is a success, what can we come and discuss in a couple of years' time that you guys are doing together? Any thoughts?
Well, for us, I think this will provide a template for other deals and other similar deals for us to grow. And so this is, this will be super helpful in putting together all the details of this kind of deal.
And perhaps you're going to be working with other clients and encouraging to do more of this kind of round package of advice and support, not just the money.
We'll be doing, continuing to do this, and we have the opportunity starting from October 1st. We will be changing quite dramatically at OPIC and changing our name, in fact, and we'll be providing equity as well as subordinated debt like Skoll. And we'll, instead of having to, beg, borrow, and steal from others, we'll be able to do these packages, as well as we hope to bring in the commercial sector. So while we can provide the first loss and maybe some of the second loss, these layers can go very high.
Yeah.
We could bring in the banking sector and say, look, we're going to really protect you, but we want you to see how the proximities of this world can repay a normal loan. And while initially you'll be protected, over time the goal is for us to essentially work ourselves out of business.
Really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, I think we hope to see more and more folks coming in with bigger loan sizes on offer to proximity finance and with longer term time horizons. So instead of looking for repayment in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years could be the case. We also hope that there's a bigger impact on philanthropy overall. There's not a lot of funding that goes into these sort of like risk loss making or potentially loss making deals. in blended finance. It's such an important part to leverage more capital for
Well,
impact.
it's really exciting stuff, and a big congratulations of you three coming together in this really innovative way. Thank you so much, Liz Diebold, Jim Polan, and Debbie Aung Din. And join me in 20 minutes where we will be meeting Perry Chen, the founder of Kickstarter. Look forward to seeing you then.